Hey, Andrew Malcolm here from Mortgage HQ, and I'm joined by Tama Singh. And I don't even know the name of your company. I just know you, man.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Tama Singh, if you're going to the coaching side, it's under the Wingman NZ. And then my actual property flipping company, Asgard Investments Limited.
That's right, man. Yeah, I remember now.
Yeah.
You've got the Marvel universe.
Yeah, Marvel Universe. So I grew up there. I'm only 30, so I've grown up with Marvel for 12 years, right? And I always, had that joke where you want to name your trading company something that sounds like poor. So when it's on a sell and purchase agreement, the vendor's like, this guy hasn't got that much. Might as well sign this lowball offer. Instead, I go and call it the Gold City in the Norse mythology, which is, So it's been a cool one to say. Yeah, it's just a cool thing going well with tradies and other real estate agents that know it. So it's a good way for them to remember me.
You've got that personality that I know will click with a lot of people. And certainly watching your Instagram can see that you're trying to bring people along for the journey. You care about people's success. You're here because you've been flipping heaps of properties and you've been doing a pretty good job. How did you get there?
Well, it all starts with just having someone show that what's possible in property by either attending a seminar that was free to lure you in, and then there's a paid spot at the end of it, and showed the lifestyle of what a property investor actually is.
Yeah.
And when you get to the top tier, just managing stuff, numerous deals on at once, and you have all the time in the world to do whatever you want. Maybe you want to wake up, travel, do it all remote, and you don't actually have to do anything on the tools, any of the hard labor. And that to me was appealing. And of course, it's a business that is super relatable, reliable. It's made the most millionaires on earth. And it's just something that I didn't know. My parents didn't really go into this. I had to learn it all from scratch.
Yeah.
But I did know that I was dealing with one of the safest investments out there.
Yeah. If you get stuck with a property, you can't flip, at least hopefully at the right price, then
you
will keep it.
Correct. And then you learn about the exit strategies and all that type of stuff. But it was a good money-making venture where you don't have to be that smart to do it.
Yeah.
Now in today's day and age, people are looking at crypto, forex trading, stock trading, IT, software, that stuff is where humongous money is.
You don't want to compete against the Goldman Sachs guys who, against Blackstone if you can. Yeah.
They're $1 trillion companies, but even attaining the 8, 9, 10 figure type companies, you got to be really smart. You have to have gone through most likely university education and software, coding.
Yeah.
So I was real estate. I didn't go to uni. Yeah. So I was well, what can I do? People were get your real estate license, become an agent. And I was well, still got to see a few agents, how they operate. And I realized it's the people that own the house when they sell it that make the most money.
Yeah. And you can make a lot of money being an agent.
You can, of course.
My understanding of being an agent in New Zealand is there's a lot of disclosure rules. So if you're going to be trading or buying and selling properties and you are an agent as well, it can create difficulty for you.
Correct.
A bit different from, say, in America, where if you're an agent, you can just get a cut of a deal. And
Oh, America's laws is crazy. And it's one of the things as well, a lot of people, as we were talking about beforehand, America, social media people dominate the attention space. And a lot of people might see how easy it is for them to do stuff, but it's totally
the rules are different.
It's totally not how New Zealand, you can't buy a house in New Zealand with 3% deposit like you can in America.
So just to whet the appetite, now, how's a couple of your successful deals? But why should people listen to you, man?
I started off with $4,000. That's the main thing I did. I had to literally claw my way to get 78 grand to do my first flip. I had no real training on how to do renovations whatsoever. Everything I did was to base it on common sense. If I buy it for this price and the renovations cost this much, how do I know it will sell for this amount? And then there's heaps of things where you're learning from someone that breaks it down in the hard yards, but the definites, where I make hundreds of phone calls, heaps of emails, and eventually you get to the point where you don't want to do hundreds of phone calls. So you have to find a more efficient way to do that. And I guess that's from someone where they're well, the track record's there. No one can buy 48 properties in 2 years if they don't know what they're doing. One mistake there, mate, you're done.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to unravel.
No, you can't get complacent, right?
It is big numbers and it's tight time frames. It just takes one bad tradie to delay something by a month.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And there's some times when I've got 7 deals on at once, and that's when it's really pushed to the edge. And I'm doing things at the moment where I'm so early to the game where I don't want to get on that train of being lazy and complacent and just have what they call sleepy money. So when you have sleepy money, that's when you've got something going on in the background where you're making money in your sleep. Of course, that's the ideal world. But right now, because I'm so young, I'd rather do the hard passive money for at least 5 years.
There's no point in letting something take 10 days if you can do it in 5.
Correct. Yeah.
Just with a few extra calls.
Yes. Being forced to do the active money, you are learning at a faster rate. I could have sat back and just did 3 deals that were probably massive profits, but I'm only dealing with maybe 3 plumbers, 3 sparkies, 3 builders. That's it. But instead of us doing smaller profits, smaller margin deals, but in higher quantity, I'm forced to see all the mistakes that happen from what human beings are, my own mistakes, and I'm learning at a faster rate.
Yeah, one of those little tips I saw you talk about was having multiple keys cut and hid in different areas.
Absolutely.
For different tradesmen. And it's just such a simple idea.
Yeah.
But you would never know that until you made that mistake of having one key, one time, one place.
Yeah. And they're coming to, I didn't have it. No, it must have been the Sparky. Well, the Sparky was there.
And he doesn't pick up his phone.
Blame game. And then the stagers are standing outside with a truck. And they're like, what do we do?
Break it. You're going to break a window. Or break it. Yeah.
Break it in. I'm just going to have to pay a glazer $200. But it needs to be done. Pain in the ass. So you want to do that with every property, 3 keys at least. Yeah. And they're like $8. So for something that costs you $24, it can ruin your entire schedule. That delays things at hundreds or even thousands.
Everything you're doing, you're trying to only go to that property one time, right? Even if you even have to go to it.
Absolutely, you know. But there's small things there you get after like doing a lot, and the mistakes and the other stuff there where, you know, it's a numbers game where there's more chances for things to go right. There's more chances for things to go wrong. You know, if we've done nearly 50, we've had break-ins, we've had things stolen, we've had people break in and just defecate on the ground and almost wipe it on all the walls after they're freshly painted. Thank God they didn't. But just dealing with all that type of stuff.
So how do you find these opportunities? Tell me, do you have some unfair advantage now where you've got agents calling you instead of you're going on listings?
By default, there has to be compound interest on, like, the more activity you do, the more, you know, the universe provides. It can't just be working hard and things aren't getting easier. So it is the compound interest of agents calling me, hey, I've got this deal. Do you want to look at it before I even take it to market? Or buyers that are just like, yes, I'm looking for this type of deal. Do you have anything for me? Which again, it sets your options up from the start. All that took at least 1 year of going very hard on pushing this property. And relationships. And it has to be public. You can't be doing this type of stuff and keeping it to be only like 10 people know what you're up to.
But there is a price on speed.
Yeah.
And so if somebody wants to get a deal done quickly as opposed to waiting for the best deal, which might come in a month or 2, then of course there might be a discount that you get.
Yeah. And the same thing with like even finance companies, which you guys would know, right? When they can settle on a deal in 3 days, chances are, you know, they can
rate is higher.
They can charge you whatever they want because they know, oh, well, you know, you need this done. So everything works into the numbers, right? But yeah, I often do talk about just paying for speed.
So how are you minimizing your risk? On top of that, how do you maximize the return?
Yeah, so minimizing the risk, well, you know, the risk basically starts for you the moment you've gone unconditional on a deal. That's where the legal risk comes in. You either have to have got a serious buyer lined up, or you have to have a serious plan on the renovations to get to the price that you know that you'll sell it at. And if anything like that is missing, then you're opening yourself up for that. Some people will go unconditional and don't have the reno funds. And then they're going to do a half-ass reno and then they get to the point of selling it.
Which you did at the beginning, right?
Which I did at the beginning, absolutely.
And you wouldn't do it now?
No, I wouldn't. I myself back then would tell myself I can go back in time, just do it. You figured it out. But for other people, it's, you know, it's a high risk appetite. You know, we use credit cards, personal loans, anything, family's money to get it done. But you have, if you're going to be asking money from people, you have to have a very clear and you have to be flawless in your explanation for them. If they rattle off 20 questions of what if this goes wrong and you only answer 19, they won't give you the money.
That's the right decision for you.
You have to have known all 20. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And when you're just starting out, you won't know that.
Yeah. So what happens that you can say, yeah, I'll go unconditional? You got builder's report, you've got finance,
maybe toxicology, you've got the lawyer to check over the legal issues, the title, boundary lines.
How much does it cost you to go unconditional? If you do unconditional and it's not accepted, how much are you in that deal that is
roughly you should be budgeting as a new person with no like contacts, at least $2,000.
So you're quite, and I'm sure you don't like doing it, but you're spending $2,000 on properties that you're not getting some of the time.
Sometimes, yes, and this is common for most people, but then eventually you find ways where, especially if you're buying the same type of properties, like you're just going in the same type of region, same type of properties, same type of decade of construction.
Same people helping you out.
Yeah, same people. You're sort of getting to know what you need to know at a way cheaper cost. We don't need a formal $700 building inspection. You're just paying an LBP guy $200 to just go over, take you photos, the big ticket items. Don't even look at the stuff that you know you're going to rip out anyway. So you start to save on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got nothing against spending money on deals you don't win, because it is a numbers game.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? Because the way that you would have got that deal is if you're offering more.
Yeah. And it does help when you're using the same type of due diligence companies as well, because you are a loyal customer of theirs. You are still giving them money, even if you're not buying the deal. That eventually what happens is I might have a really good deal, and for some reason the due diligence is finishing in 3 days.
Shorter, yeah.
Yeah, shorter. And there's a backup offer, so there's no extension for me.
Yeah.
And so I call up the company that's done my inspections or whatever. I've spent maybe $4,000 of DD money with them. And I said, hey, it's me here. Can you guys get in there tomorrow? And they go, look, we'll move some things around. We'll get in there.
That's good.
So all that money that you thought was just down the hill, down the toilet, they come through and they get you the report that night in order for you to make the decision to go unconditional before the deadline. So all that stuff is, got to be calculated.
Don't ever burn your suppliers.
But it's dumb to spend all that money. Then all of a sudden you go to a new company and you get no benefits from staying as a loyal account person. Yeah.
But if you got anything more to add on minimizing risk or maximizing returns, go for it, man.
Minimizing risk for flipping always comes down to the sale price. Obviously, purchase price is the number one thing that's locked in that doesn't change. Renovation can blow out of the water. Sale price can change because of market conditions, interest rates, but the purchase price is always the number one thing that never changes from the moment you're in the deal. And you have to be pretty strict on that and not get emotionally connected to the deal, because if you are taking this seriously and you have a skill of knowing how to find deals, you aren't as linked to that one deal when you walk away, because you're like, I'll just find another one in literally 3 days. And once you go unconditional, dealing with the renovations, there's certain things that's capped that you know is not going to be the worst case scenario. Something's wrong with the wiring. Worst case scenario, the whole house needs to be rewired. So you probably capped that there about $15,000. New switchboard, everything like that. And you take note of everything that's coming through if you can. Once you've done your first couple of deals, stare at it on a spreadsheet or whatever and be like, I know how much each tradie should cost. And that ticks a sort of a minimal box. And then you go to the sale price, which is where a lot of people can lose that big 40, 50 grand straight off the top. And that is maybe, talk about it, not vetting the agent properly, not knowing how they operate. How are you talking to buyers? If I was to mystery shop you, what are you sending to me as a buyer? Because I gave you all this information, but when I mystery shopped you here, you didn't even give one of the biggest bonuses of what this house was, which was that subdivision quote or that blah, blah, blah. You just totally missed that out. And now me as a buyer has to chase up and ask if you have that, or assume it doesn't exist. So I might go look at another deal. So all that stuff happens, and people may be getting lazy on their post due diligence for the sale price, where they're not calling, myself, I'll call every single agent in that town. I'll call every single one in one day. And it's like, why wouldn't you? It's free. Their job is to answer the phone. And worst case scenario, they're all going to be fighting for the listing, and say only one of them gets it. And then you say that they're going to chase you up. Hey, how'd that house go? Are you written? No, sorry, I went with blah, blah, blah. You can use a third party bullshit excuse if you wanted to. My business partner wanted to go with them because blah, 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 but I'm still ready to buy. Do you have anything else? Here are the criteria. And now you've got valuable information out there in the ether.
Well, buyers are valuable in this market.
Correct.
Right?
Agents want your number and contact number at the very minimal. So at least one, when they go home at night and they crack open a beer and they're sitting there on the couch, they're like, what did I even do today? I spoke to that one dude. Maybe he'll buy something off me. Maybe I can send him something. Yeah. At least that's something for the agent to have accomplished. But if you do that with 8 agents a week, times that by half the year, you're getting agents sending you stuff, you're getting deals done and all that stuff. Yeah.
You just did one a day and you didn't even do it on the weekends. It's 250 agents.
Yeah.
You can get through the top 20% of agents in the country calling one a day.
Yeah, and it's free somewhat. It's the same mobile charge you'll get every month. And you plug your phone in and charge it, and that's it.
You can probably do it at work on the work phone.
Yeah, on your way to work. So you should be doing that on your work breaks afterwards. There's efficient ways to be searching on TradeMe as well, contacting agents. So if you are working a full-time job, it's one of the things that I always push. It's not an excuse.
Or texting, man.
Yeah, texting is the key now. Voice messages, sending photos through WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever, right? So, and the main thing is just calling as many agents as you can to get their point of view on what you think you're going to sell it at, and get a lot of the agents' feedback unbiased, and smell out the ones that are just trying to buy the listing. And the buying the listing is when they're just overinflating what they think they can sell it for.
580. Yeah, right.
You want 480? Ah, easy, mate. Easy. Maybe high fives on a good day. No, okay, yeah. So that's why the CMA isn't like holding them in writing. It is just their professional opinion somewhat. But that's the only other way to mitigate the risks there. And not being cheap on your lawyer. That's the other thing. The number one thing when it comes to the due diligence you're doing, you can't be, having a few tradies just throw another $300, $200, $400, $500 on top of your bill without you even knowing or even caring. But then your lawyer bills you $300 for 14 minutes that they talk to you at once. You have to be like, there has to be expensive value.
Yeah. If you're doing due diligence on properties and you're not buying them, but your lawyer's involved, you still should pay.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of times a lawyer will, overlook that.
Yeah.
But you should be saying, hey, if I don't buy these properties I'm getting you look at, I will pay you.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And having that mentality of respecting people's professional time is a great mindset, I believe.
Exactly. Yeah. But you also got to be wary because, dealing with buyers, their lawyers, some of them are like the most annoying people on earth because that, like, especially when I focus on the regions, these are people in Auckland maybe that have very expensive lawyers' office. They don't even know what a house in Invercargill looks like. So they're telling their buyer, nah, don't do it. Nah. And then months will pass, years will pass, and the client will have no investment property. The house prices will start to climb, and the lawyer doesn't care at that point. They've just told them not to buy every house that they thought was like a little bit of a risk, because that's what lawyers are. Their job is to like overprotect, which eventually people have to have everything in life is risky. The lawyer got in his car to drive to work, risk.
Properties.
Correct.
Or, at least a lot of investment property experience.
Exactly. So you got to be careful of who you take advice from, because it could just stall you and you've kept paying the lawyer. Then it becomes absolutely like a piss take. And you're like, well, what have I done? It's been 9 months.
So how are you finding these locations of properties to buy? You just run numbers and you're location agnostic? Or?
Yeah, well, it always depends on who you are. For me, it'd be different from other people. People would like to focus on where they know the tradies are, because they would often look at doing the work themselves or getting their brother or their dad or someone to save on costs. But then they're focusing on the big cities because that's majority where they live, possibly Auckland, right? In order for you to buy that Auckland house that puts the 40% deposit, an extra 80 grand that you need, you could have done a faster, have more cash in your reserve for a smaller region's property, right? And eventually that's what I teach, is like how to manage these remotely. And a good way of doing that is just to see where the government's spending their money. That's another big one. Yeah, infrastructure, the provisional growth fund. So wherever they're spending their money in small towns, that's where you could jump in on, because the government ain't spending money where a town's going to go down. The government won't do that. And they've already allocated things, their budget that's in writing online. Politics, mate. Yep, because that's it. Capital gains stems from where the infrastructure is, right? Where the population is. And looking out for that type of stuff, where big supermarkets, where major headlines in the news, this new XYZ's opening up, this new supermarket, university, 24-hour Kmart store, this new McDonald's complex, because these companies would pay 10 times more than the research, 100 times more than what me and you would do. They've been working on this for years.
Can save New World Countdown or whatever, then within 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, you know that the region is safe.
Exactly, yeah. And how much hardware stores they actually have, because that depends on your renovations and how many tradies there are, how many property managers there are, all that type of stuff. And again, in today's, it fluctuates, because my parents, they didn't have any of this to try and buy property. There was no way they would have done 45 in this time. Like you have to use the technology and the data of what's online. And again, with me, I'm not tech savvy much. My whole thing is like just talking and being on camera and just making phone calls. And with that, you can make a difference, right? Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people want to avoid those difficult conversations.
That's one of the things, right? And it's just mental breakthrough, that sort of things that I go over at my seminars is like, you have to love the phone. If you do not love the phone, I will make the money on the phone in front of you and show you that all you had to say were these 120 words, which takes 3 minutes.
But you already know what to say.
You already know what to say, because the worst thing about it is that I can do this in front of you, hang up, and you're going to start telling me, oh, see, it's so amazing how you can do that. And it's like, don't speak those words. Who cares? Why don't you just say what we needed to say on the phone? You've already used the carbon monoxide that just came out to reply to me. Just say those words. And that's where sometimes we do set scripts and stuff. It's like, if you can read a meme on your phone, you can read these scripts out loud. And then it takes practice because, agents can sort of experience what will see right through you.
Wiggle out of it.
Yeah, who cares? That same thing happened to me. Then eventually, like your love and why you're actually doing real estate has to trump that.
You have a passion for property, and that passion for property comes from, I guess, your desire to have financial freedom.
Exactly.
And if you've got the passion for property, it's probably because you see it as probably your main way you're going to.
Exactly. And like a lot of people would be more passionate towards what they actually wanted to do in life. Like maybe it's like becoming an actor, maybe it's to travel the world. Property is just a vehicle to get your bank account up so you can go do whatever you want to do.
Well, that's one of the reasons Arnold Schwarzenegger was such a successful actor. He was financially free before he started.
He didn't have to choose any of the terrible roles. That's great. He's one of the main reasons why when I first was exposed, like the hour that was happening in front of my eyes when someone was talking about property, Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of my idols, great person. They mentioned that fact.
Yeah, and he had a ton of property
before he even hit Hollywood. And I was like, what? Yeah, smart man.
Yeah, very smart man. And
you would have seen his doco, recently?
Watched it's good documentary. And his books are good too.
Yeah, I've seen Total Recall stuff. And one of the craziest things, even with the Arnold doco, it's like that guy was hustling. He was like looking at real estate deals. He was like driving around with a phone in his car so he can make calls nonstop. Like people underestimate how hard this guy actually worked.
Yeah. I was telling my friend, we went to the hardware store the other day, and I was telling him about a deal I'm trying to do. There's one business I want to buy. The guy's in his early 70s, and we had coffee like a year ago, and I know that I want to buy this business. Yeah. And I know that he doesn't really have a plan. And since we've had that lunch last year, I've probably tried to contact him by calling him maybe like 5-6 times. Yeah. No reply. I've texted him like 6-7 times with no reply for like a year. Just constantly. And like every so often he would like send me like a short little message or whatever of like
some bullshit.
And then I sent him another message recently about, hey, if I'm bothering you or you don't want to work with me anymore, let me know. I'm not going to. And then he calls me and he calls me with the, hey, just give me 2 more weeks and then I'm keen to catch up kind of thing. What would have been the easiest thing to do is after the first 1 or 2 phone calls and texts to stop. And I definitely wouldn't get the deal.
Yeah, 100%. And it's good that you've actually used the sales skills out of the Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference. So he breaks it down even on email, how you started off with being like, have you given up? Like that's how you word it, because no one wants to say that they've given up. Yeah. So if no one's replying to you, email, text you, and you put in writing, hey, have you given up on this? And then you go in with your message, they'll read that and be like, I haven't given up. Nah. And that's what prompted. So that's... Go for the no, yeah.
Hi, Paul. Have you changed your mind about talking more about business or just been too busy? Do you want me to stop bugging you, Andrew?
Yeah, 100%.
That's the one that called that, yeah. Yeah. And I got 100 opportunities in front of me, and those are the kinds of things that I have to do to get the deals done.
And people don't see that.
No. And I guess it'll be the same with property, with tradies, with all of the things you're working with. Sometimes you just got to triple call someone.
100%. That's why it's like if you see someone successful in property, you look at their call log list, especially on a weekday. It'll be like 40 phone calls minimum every single day. It's one of the things. So I'm like, use technology. Get onto the Bluetooth headsets so you can hands-free, so you can walk and talk and continue with your life as you're actually doing two things. Yeah, especially when you're driving to work.
Got to utilize the time, eh? I always say to the guys, don't listen to the radio in the car.
Nah, it's a waste of time. That's the thing. Like, I used to be like that. All the new songs that came out by Drake or anything, and then now I just don't know any new songs. I either listen to podcasts that are to do with property or business or negotiations, or I just spam the phone calls.
Memorable lessons. Tell us about some of the bad ones, the good ones. There must be some
memorable
favorites.
lessons. The main thing is that learning the sentence, other people's money makes your life just slingshot far. So you have to know who are the people in your life that have money that might not actually end up giving it to you, but at least if they're close enough, practice asking them and find out the no. Find out what it feels like for them to reject you and the reasons why. Because you need to be able to, I just say, if it was your parents and they always had like, yeah, maybe they'll help me on my deposit. They always said one. I was like, get the no out of the way. Because what you're doing is just sitting on your ass for 6 months, thinking that's going to be the thing. Then they'll say no. Then I'll take your mum and dad at least 2 or 3 weeks or a month to think about it a bit more. And then they might come back to you and be like, it's because the next time you catch up to it, it's because this reason, or this reason. If you had asked them sooner, you would have found out those reasons, worked on your reply, worked on your objection handling. In a parallel universe, you who asked the question faster got their house before you did. Because you were just holding on to the maybe. Nah, I think so. And then do you know what's going to happen? You're going to end up having the balls to do it. And you're going to go ask them. And they're going to be like, oh, we would have. But your dad's just gone off and bought an $80,000 boat before he retired. What? And if you were upskilled, you could have made more money with that 80 grand, cashed out your dad with a bit of interest, gone again, blah, blah, blah. So my main thing is to just get the no out of the way. Even expect a no, but just ask the question ASAP.
Talking to the people that have money about how they make money or how they plan to make more money. And if they don't really have a plan to make more money, then you're highlighting that they have a need.
Absolutely. And one of the annoying things as well is that what people need to, other shortcuts, there's just so much easier shortcuts where people might have friends that are successful in business or anything to do with income. And right now in today's inflationary world, that is sort of priority. It controls everything in life. It controls your mood when you get home. It controls your partner's mood because of a certain bill that popped up, or the way your car drives because it hasn't seen the mechanic in years. When you have a friend like that is doing good, and when you catch up with them, all you're doing is talking about yourself, terrible, fail. You should swallow your pride. This is just what a shortcut. You let them speak and you ask them as many questions as you could possible, and you frame it as if, what would you be doing in my shoes? That's the only conversation that should happen at your short 1 hour catch up. But instead, people talk about what they've been up to hold their pride in front of that person's eyes, who they know is more successful than them. But they don't realize that one of the things is that when someone's successful, and chances are they're egotistical. They just want to talk about themselves. So what you do is you drive the conversation to, yes, keep talking about yourself, but do it in the way where the challenge is, do it if you were me. And they go, oh, okay. And then they'll start asking you questions. Well, what's your KiwiSaver? How much are you earning? What's your mum earning? What's your dad earning? Oh, who has property? And they'll start giving ideas to you that's worth thousands of dollars. Don't talk about the bull. No way. Who cares about the movie that just came out or the new series launched? You've got limited time with this person, and they'll feel happy talking about that too, because chances are that person's all about business and themselves, and they would love it for you to ask them for help. But people always make this mistakes. They talk about themselves, and I sit there listening. I'm one of those people continuously. I will always, if I'm sitting with someone that I know is business focused, land, mood, and they've achieved great things, I don't care about what I'm up to. I know what I'm up to. I'm in my head all the time, as with everyone, right? I just only want to talk about them. But then when I have on the flip side with other people that I know where they are in life, and I know how I could help them, because I love that. My number one thing is tell me your excuse, and I'll destroy it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, mentorship is a tremendous privilege, and people love mentoring other people.
Yeah, you can get it for free if you stick around the right people at the right time for a certain duration of time. But then there's also the paid mentorships where you just pay someone for their time and just be like, this is a business transaction. I want this result. from paying you this amount. And it's up to both parties to be like, yep, we can do that. But those small key character traits that people just need to open their eyes to the opportunities in front of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the question of how do you be a successful property trader kind of starts from the question of how do you be a successful dealer, a dealer with people? How do you deal with people?
People person. Because property is always just about property, people.
How do you deal with agents? How do you deal with tradespeople? How do you deal with vendors and lawyers? And what, generally speaking, they should like you. Otherwise, they'll just delay.
Yeah, 100%. And the other final thing mainly is understanding that there are, wealthy-ish people in property that would pay someone for just providing value to them. And that's someone that has no money whatsoever. And this is why I push the deal sourcing strategy so much. Eventually, you just want more time.
So let's dive deeper into that. So deal sourcing, you want to find a deal, a property, ideally get it under contract that has a lot of buffer in it for somebody else to come in.
Yep.
Walk us through it.
So basically, you would just say, if you open up Trade Me, and you find a property that ticks these 11 boxes, say, all 11, at least 8, money can be made from this. In those 11, we'll have a certain thing that if you typed in things on a calculator, it'll show a margin. From that margin, if it sits around, say, 40 grand, that person that found the deal should just be eligible for 10,000 of that, because the other person still has to buy it, settle on it, actually have the risk. So that is someone that's alien. So this is like alien money, where you have no citizenship, you have nothing, you just landed on Earth, and someone said, look on this free website called Trade Me or real estate or home, whatever. And if you find properties that tick these boxes, you will earn this amount of money. Now, it's not that easy. There's times where you're going to only find 6 out of those 11, 9 out of those 11, but you needed all 11 out of 11 to hit. It will take time. It'll take a little bit of even due diligence money. It could be like even ordering a council file because you don't want to get the limb, like small things like that. But it has to be secured under contract. So this is where I say the only thing you'll need here is a lawyer, because everything else you don't need an accountant for this technically.
You can actually, if you know what you're doing, you need the clause, and you need the sale and purchase agreement, and you need to sign it with due diligence, and then there's no legal fee. You can take it to another buyer and get them to use their law.
But exactly right. But chances are the agent might not accept that sale and purchase to be under contract if it didn't have a lawyer on it. So you think of putting TBC on it? Nah, no one will. Because I know if I'm a vendor and someone's bringing me, hey, Tom, we've got this, it's finally on. I'm like, oh, cool. Last page. Why is this legally binding? No lawyer details. Oh, they put TBC there. They're still working. Nah, bull. Nah.
Any diligent agents should defer and say, hey, if there's a lawyer, then. So really what you do need is you need an understanding with a lawyer that they might get notification about a contract.
Yep. And you need to reply to acknowledge that it's been.
Exactly. So you've previously agreed with a lawyer that you don't want them to begin work on any contracts unless
it goes unconditional.
Or unless specified.
Yeah, unless you've requested it, post that,
If you want to do property transactions for free, first person you call is a lawyer. You say, hey, I'm going to be trying to get some properties under contract. There might be a few of them. I don't want you to begin any legal work until I've confirmed by email.
Yeah. And even then you might be looking at like a few $100 for that, right? And say you've done those 5 properties and that's $1,000 gone, right? At this time, if you're serious about making money as a deal sourcer, you should put that aside.
Oh, $1,000 is nothing.
Because what are you spending your money on?
You say to the lawyer, hey, I want to use the due diligence clause that you're comfortable with. Can you see me at the first one? I want to put $1,000 down as my credit with your firm. Going to be trying to get 5 to 10 properties under contract in the next couple of months. I'm not expecting you to do any work on them other than a quick cursory look. Maybe it's $100 a look or whatever, but I'll be trying to get those contracts sold to someone else.
Yeah, correct. And they'll be like, okay, cool. So just be mindful of the contemporaneous, or are you going to do this? Nominate it for a fee. Understand you're still on the hook if they don't settle because of denomination. So understanding these types of stuff, right? And that's the first thing. And that's just how to make yourself $5,000, $10,000 with absolutely no money whatsoever and your value. And be like, why? How is that possible? Because the rich guy is leveraging your time for 10 grand when he goes and makes 40 or 50, but who cares?
And so many people are willing to pay property finders to find the right deal.
I do. I'm one of them. for the time basis, literally that.
The non-property investment based people, the people that are newish to property investing might not quite understand, 10, 15, 20, even 50 grand of property finder's fee is actually well worth paying if the deal is worth it.
100%. And the real smart ones will be like, reduce their fee, but just send more deals and be like, I want to learn. So when they're coming back being like, nah, not good enough. And like, oh, okay. But they also be like, because of this, maybe next time you should have done this. That's thousands of dollars worth of advice there.
Especially if it's something as simple as your due diligence period is not long enough. It's $10,000 too much.
Yeah, but it's a double-edged sword there with like having a long due diligence period. Chances are you're not going to get it for
what's the magic number? Do you share that?
Well, you can also there's heaps of stuff where just a funny sentence scenario is that like the best way to reveal someone's absolute lowest number is basically the sentence: cash, unconditional, settlement in 5 days. If you can put that on paper, vendors are signing things that they never would have thought they would have signed because the agent standing over them being like, if you sign this, it's done, sold, money is in your account. Next week, Thursday, they're going to be like, what should we ask for another 10 grand? Oh, well, he could walk. Oh, now it's not under contract. But if you touch ink, if you touch this paper, holding this, it's done. They will sign. But how is a way where you can find that out without actually committing to being absolutely unconditional? You can actually be like the same number. Instead of cash, unconditional, settlement in 5 working days, you can put this due diligence is due by 4 p.m. tomorrow. You can write that in. And then the agent saying the exact same thing, being like, look, you could have this done by 4 p.m. tomorrow, settlement in 5 working days, but like if you sign it, worst case scenarios, he pulls out, but it's only tomorrow we get to work on Friday. Best case scenario, he buys it, it's done.
Yeah.
So what you've actually done there is you've opened up what their lowest number is, but you haven't actually committed.
I understand. And in terms of deposit percentages, I'm guessing you guys have done your best to move away from that 10% to a lower number. You
10% still anything in the regions. 10% is definitely there for Auckland.
1 to 5% or even 0%.
Yeah, well, you go nil, full in settlement, 10 grand, 12 grand. It depends, right? If I'm doing stuff with agents that are bringing me the deals off market, say, the last thing they want to see on that piece of paper is a deposit that doesn't even cover their commission. Because they're going to be like, damn, I should have just made an extra 4 calls and found someone else that would have paid me faster, But because I work around the regions, that 3%, 3 point, whatever their fee is at a $300,000 sale price, that ain't much compared to 3% of a $800K house.
Yeah, and the value of that, if they get that a month earlier, is huge for that agent.
Well, agent's the one that'll bring you another deal before it even settles. So now you've got 2 on,
And plus you're helping the agent get more deals because they just sold a property off market really quick.
Correct.
And then they can go
throw that on their social media, put the soul sign on.
Another off market deal in 2 days.
100%. So there's and like the thing is like when you know this is the win, like how you just said, tell the agent that. Tell them the favor you're doing. Because some of them don't know. So you always got to be like confident in how you're saying like, this is helping you. Let's not build around the bush here. Keep bringing them to me. Be careful how you're saying, oh, sold off market in 2 days. I don't want too many investors calling you up saying, can I get on that list? Because you want to sort of have some exclusivity there.
What's the end game for you, man? Like you're trying to hold every third property and get to 100 or?
No, my end game is to appeal to the masses of the people that are the middle class below. And that's where the masses are. If you look at the wealthiest in New Zealand, it goes into like the single digits percentage. So, like in the certain tax bracket there under say 70K income or under 80K income in New Zealand, that's humongous. That's where the majority of them are, So it's like, I want to become the most popular property coach for them, which is beginners and medium. And you can only do that by giving as much value as you can, earning money to scale the brand, which is why you do the seminars and the coaching and everything like that. Have really good test results, good reputation, obviously, and be known as that guy that helps the masses. Yeah, because even with the coaching stuff, like we make enough from the flipping, but obviously the coaching money is just way better for cash flow, and it's really good at building the brand when all the feedback, every feedback has been flawless.
No, I think you're doing a good service, man, because if most mum and dad salary earners, for example, they're 1 or 2 jobs, if they just flip 1 or 2 properties a year for 20 years, they will achieve financial freedom. And if they kept every 4th or 5th property, it's hard to see how they couldn't
fail.
Yeah, they'll create success from that.
Yeah, and the biggest problem that's just looming on people's minds at the moment, increased petrol, food, interest rates, blah, blah. If you actually collate that into like this big, like I sat down with a mortgage broker like you guys at one point, and they go, look, this is what you guys are looking at increased. It's like 27,000. You guys need an extra 27,000 because of the kids' daycare now, the adjustment for this, and this. Then like, oh, wow. And then all of a sudden you're like, you can save that? Probably not. You can try and start a side hustle of walking the dogs and the neighbor's dogs and all these small ticket ass things. And then it's like, or you can leverage equity in your house, do a flip, worst case scenario, make 25 grand and throw that all into this bank account that just clears your debt. Offset it, like all that type of stuff. But like offset, that's not money you've earned. That's still debt, right?
Family earning, say, 120 grand a year combined. End of the year, after all the expenses, maybe they save 20 grand. If they're really good at what they do.
They're really good.
Right? And that's working 40-hour a week, 48 weeks, 2 of them. Right.
Missing valuable events with the family, all that type of stuff, And then one of the main messages that I push is make money to avoid pain, because no one pushes that sort of message. Maybe Gary Vee does it at the end of the day, but it's not like to get the new car. That's why I don't do anything flashy. I don't post anything flashy. To the point people even question my credibility. Probably I would, but it's to avoid the pain. It's like literally like, and I've made heaps of videos on it. Your dog gets sick, and either you're putting him down or you're putting out 11 grand. And to me, ain't no one putting down my dog. That 11 grand's being transferred that hour.
First thing I did with my dog when she turned 8 weeks is got the insurance back.
Yeah. I mean, if you're smart and you got insurance, absolutely.
Yeah.
But things like that, or family emergency, or a flight that needs to happen at quick the spot, or your sister's bond is delayed and she needs to transfer it over, and no one in the family can help her because that 2.5 grand is denting their entire savings pile. That's what you actually want to make the money for, is just to avoid the pain. Outside of that, $50 for me a day is all the money I really need. Oh, put a beers and goat curry, man. That's me.
Yeah. Some of the lads said you like your beers. And,
Yeah. Try to.
I envy those guys get to go out with you all the time, man. I got 3 kids under 5 and under now. It's,
damn, yeah.
It's less time for that sort of thing.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, no, you're doing it to the point where their security and safety is going to be well looked after in the future. By the time they get to like an age of maybe 16, 17, you're fully retired. You can do whatever you want. And like other stuff where, watching TV shows and movies where the kid's 18 now and she wants to travel to Spain or something, and you as a dad might not see her ever for like a year because of the cost of traveling back and forth.
Terrible when that's
I'm like, nah, my daughter goes anywhere in the world, man. I've got a house there. Don't care. I'll buy it the day she's like, I'm going to live in Switzerland, Dad. Sweet. What's the trade me version of Switzerland? What university are you going to? Cool. And I'll buy a house. Like nothing will stop me from ever like not seeing my kids. And that's because of money. So you think of the long term there where it actually hurts, like the pain that I can only imagine for some parents where finances has separated them from their kids. That shit to me is like, no.
Having the experience now, I'd say it's a lot easier having kids, a lot easier trading properties than having kids.
Yeah.
So if you have kids, you definitely have the skills enough.
Yeah, the stress ain't anywhere near, the worrying, the constantly it's on your head, the constantly thinking, we've got to plan dinner, lunch, breakfast. Okay, we're taking them to the mall, where I'm going to change them. It's the same thing with project management.
Exactly, yeah. If you can handle project management of children, then you'll be able to do the renovations in it. And it's trial and error.
Yeah, and my daughter's only like 2 years, 4 months, right? And I started flipping 2 years ago. So literally the moment she was born, it was like February, March, April, first deal, start. Immediately April, May, June, July, and just nonstop since then. So I had to do it. Yeah, I had to do it. I was going to do it regardless anyway. I always knew I was going to try and make money. I just needed to know the vehicle that was like somewhat that's too smart with finances, even math and software. That's what I could do. I don't even know how to build anything.
Oh, I'm terrible with my.
It's literally just learning things that
skills,
come out of your mouth. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Because you see something and identifying the deals, but you have to call. You have to know what to say, negotiation strategies, all that stuff.
And you learn trial and error. Those first phone calls you would have made compared to calls you're doing now, you would laugh at yourself.
100%.
Yeah, but now
and even I'd laugh at myself 2 years from now. I'd be like, oh, you clearly made this mistake here. You didn't check this. You didn't check this. You didn't check this. And I know because I'm doing that to myself last year, October me.
Because you got all the checklists now.
Yeah, I've systemized it. Not and like sort of like it'll get better and better and better and better and better.
I'd love to have you back more often to talk about specific deals.
Absolutely.
I think you're a good follow on Instagram. You just, what is it, Tama Singh?
Yeah, just Tama Singh.
Anywhere else people should check you out?
Well, I've got a new website coming out soon, tamasingh.com, and that'll be like the main flagship of my brand. That'll have everything on there, which currently is getting made at the moment.
Yeah. Bells and whistles.
Bells and whistles, mate. Absolutely. Want it to be the best, no expense spared. I love doing the videos. I like to do videos different from others that I know, and I want a professional setup like this soon as well.
Come use this place, man. It's fine. Put your own signs up.
Yeah, exactly, And just the cool ones where you're doing the outside of a house in the reno, showing them this, showing them that.
The action shots.
Yeah, the action. That's what actually, otherwise it's just like too many of the talking head ones that I've done for like 1.5 years now. Eventually you just want to switch it up.
Yeah, I saw your Elon Musk one the other day.
Yeah, just put it in front of the TV.
That was the last. That was good.
Yeah, and it's true, It's way harder to save 10 grand than it is for 10,000. And the message was, you didn't learn anything from saving that 10K.
It's painful. And it's definitely as painful saving 10 grand as it is to try and make it from a flip or contemporaneous or signing a contract or whatever. It's a lot easier to
100%.
to make money than to save money.
Yeah, and so you saved your blood, sweat, and tears at 10 grand. Something happens to your mum. God, what are you going to say? No,
yeah.
Gone. Now start again. Here's another 6 months. Unless you were like, actually, there should be a point where I want to learn how to make 10 grand. It has to be 10 grand minimum the skill. I don't want anything else. Don't come to me with let's start a mug shop or let's just a walking the dog business. And I have to calculate how many of those I need to do to make the 10 grand net. Not tax and and
it has to be that it's not a leverage. You don't want to pay money to make the money if you can avoid it. If you can get a skill that makes you 10,000 or more, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go in debt to get to it.
Yeah, that's the key.
It's a skill that you can go for the rest of your life. You can retire
on that.
Yeah.
Technically. Because you just know you can scale it. You go, okay, I need to call 80 people instead of 40 because that might give me the 20. And if I'm doing 80 phone calls a month, which isn't hard. Do 80 almost a day, 80 a month or whatever, that gets you an average is out 15 a month. So you're now earning 3 times your salary because the average salary is like 5 grand a month in New Zealand.
Yeah. And you definitely can do a lot of this in your spare time.
Yeah.
People agents work after hours. They work weekends.
Man, when I was starting, I was calling agents at 9 p.m. I didn't care because I'd have the time there after Zoe went to bed and I'd just start looking at things on Trade Me and I'd be like, I'm calling them. And some of them would answer and some of them I'd end up getting under contract, flipping it, made 40 grand. So I'm like, me calling that person and she was all for it. Well, otherwise they wouldn't pick up the phone. And then eventually after a while, you're like, oh, I don't need to be like that hungry now. And back in the day, because, I'm still not licensed anything. I'm just some dude. And I had no idea how the actual law about real estate worked. On the sale and purchase agreement on the back page, it's got the vendor's number and their lawyer. I'd just straight call the vendor and be like, yo, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you accepting my offer? Disregard the agent and just go straight to the angle. Or be negotiating within contract and no one will be getting back to me. So I'll just call the lawyer's office, their lawyer. And the lawyer's like, who are you? I'm Tama. They're like, Tama from blah, blah. They're like, oh, are you Mary's husband? I'm like, no, I'm the buyer. And they'd be like, why are you calling me? You're not supposed to call me.
I've done all that too, man.
Because you're ignorant and you have no idea.
Trying to speed things up.
Of course.
Yeah, I've definitely met with vendors where it's not working out with the agents or whatever. And sometimes that helps. The agents, if they're still getting paid,
otherwise,
should be
why
okay.
have it on the sale and purchase? If it's supposed to be so confidential and no one's supposed to be reaching out, it'll be withheld where only the lawyer's offices have the vendor's numbers and purchase numbers.
Well, the thing is with the technology these days, you can look up people's details anyway.
Yeah.
You can see who owns what.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, it's good talking to you, man. I love the energy. I love what you're trying to achieve. Trying to get people to catch what you've got. Yeah, is going to be great.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, that's why I got to scream it thousands of times at the camera, and that's what I'm like at my seminars. I just swear and yell a lot, and they get it. A lot of them, not one of them leaves unmotivated, and especially when I break it down. give me any excuse you have and I'll destroy it in 5 seconds, 5 minutes. I need 5 minutes. And especially if it's their parents, I'm like, get me on the phone with them. I love that stuff. I will talk with your parents.
Yeah, get the no.
Get the no out of the way, because you know what's going to happen? It takes like, as I said, it takes like a month for them to think about it. And then what's going to happen is if you don't give up and just try anyway, you try the deal sourcing, you try and do it on your own, months pass, you catch up with them for dinner. Well, how's everything going? Yeah, I'm still on that property buzz. I'm still trying to secure it, blah, blah. Eventually your parents are going to be like, we can just do this with 3 pieces of paper and help him out significantly.
Make him go away.
We just needed to know that he was serious about this and he knew what he was doing before we invested. Now that he's demonstrated that, we will give the funds.
Is a good baseline. My parents have plenty of money. It's hard for me to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you're going to your parents, if they don't have a lot of money, you should expect no. You should expect resistance.
Right.
You should expect really hard questions. Expect questions that you might think are silly or dumb.
Yeah. So you're not trying to get the yes out of them. You're trying to get the no because of. Yeah. That's what you want, the explanation, because now you know what to work on. And then eventually there's a certain threshold where, some people just cannot be bargained with due to their history, their past, or maybe even like a
bad experience,
a financial restriction where they can't actually do anything with it. And so you needed to find that out faster than having that in the back of your mind as your last Hail Mary move. And you've just sat around for 2.5 years wasting life.
And on that,
mate.
Oh, look, I can definitely see you're committed to helping people out. And that's what we're trying to do as well. And some of those people will come to us and some of them won't, but it doesn't matter. We're trying to make New Zealand a wealthier nation, and it will help everyone.
Helps everyone, mate. Cool. And thanks for having me on.
Oh man, it's a pleasure.
Les.